Hello dearest friends, welcome or welcome back to my channel, Diana and the Book Hunt. Recently I saw that Jess from Peace Love Books did a post on her Instagram where she mentioned 15 books that define her reading taste, and consequently she also did a YouTube video that discusses those books. So I thought that that was a great idea because it kind of lets you into kind of favorite books that you gravitate towards. Also, you can see if our tastes align essentially. So if you find favorite books on this list, you definitely will know that I'll be recommending similar books on my channel and you can follow me for those. So I'm going to let you into my 15 books that define my reading taste today, and I'm actually going to link down below Jess's video so you can check out her 15 books. You will definitely notice that there are some similarities between our lists because I get a lot of recommendations from Jess as well as other lovely booktubers that I follow. And thank you so much, Jess, for this idea as well as all the recommendations that we get off of you. And now I'm going to dive into my list. So the first book I'm going to mention is an oldie but a goodie. It's Amura MO by Kristen Becker Ritchie. I know that everyone is obsessed with the Addicted series by these authors, but actually Amura MO and Infinity are my favorite books by these authors. Amura MO is essentially an age gap taboo romance between two circus artists. We've got our heroine who goes to Las Vegas to try out for this circus show that is very much Cirque du Soleil kind of show, and she has a romance with the guy who is leading the show. He's a Russian, he's very much an alpha male, and I absolutely love this story. I reread it last year, I think, and I still gave it 5 stars. I will always love the two characters and kind of the world that is built into this story. I love the circus and performance aspect within the book, so I will definitely gravitate towards these kinds of stories where you've got a taboo relationship, age gap relationship, a lot of angst, a lot of slow burn tension. So yeah, this is a definite favorite of mine. Next up is a more recent read and a more recent favorite author of mine, that is Caught Up by Liz Ford. I've mentioned this book very many times, so I'm not going to keep talking about it too much. This is a nanny, foodie romance, sports romance as well, because the hero is a professional baseball player and the heroine is a professional Michelin star chef. And the romance between them kind of blooms because they have forced proximity. She becomes his nanny because he has a baby at home. He's a single dad. And essentially, this is really one of my all-time favorite books now. So you can definitely hear me gushing about this book in very many videos on my channel if you want to hear more. So go ahead and check them out. Moving on to another book that I absolutely love and that I've talked about a lot on my channel. It's Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I actually love Part of Your World, which is book 1 within this standalone companion series. But this one just holds kind of a special place in my heart because it deals with a lot of relatable issues. This one is between two doctors who work at the same hospital, and they start kind of, first of all, an epistolary relationship where they write letters to each other because the hero made a very bad first impression on the heroine and she was kind of pissed off at him at the start of the book, but then he writes her an apology letter and they start to exchange letters. It also involves a fake dating relationship. It involves representation for anxiety, which is very well represented within this book. And we've got a cinnamon roll hero, we've got a very sunshiny heroine, and I absolutely love this book. The next book I'm going to mention is the only book that is not strictly a romance book, but it's by an author that I very much love and respect, and an author that is an auto-buy author for me. It's by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and one of my favorite books by Taylor Jenkins Reid is Carrie Soto is Back. I really love this book because it has a very unlikable heroine and she has a very kind of deep relationship with her father. I really love their relationship. She is a tennis player who has always wanted to be the best. She was the best while she was active within her career, but then she retired because of a lot of injuries. And fast forward a couple of years, there is another kind of star tennis player who is taking up her place and is breaking her records, and Carrie decides to come out of retirement to try to win one last title, to kind of bring her name back into the history books, and it's a very interesting, very kind of different read, especially if you're a sports fan like myself. Especially I love tennis, so this was an exciting read for me. I know that a lot of people didn't like this one because they're not very much involved with tennis, but I really love the sport, and when I was reading it, I was kind of feeling as excited as if I were participating in Wimbledon or US Open or whichever tournament, and I really love this book. Next up is Heartless by Elsie Silver. This is a very popular book, the second book within the Chestnut Spring series by this author that blew up last year mostly. And I really love this book because of the banter, because of the amazing connection between the hero and heroine. We've got Kate and Willa. Kate is a single dad. Willa is the nanny for his son. This is a small town ranch kind of cowboy romance, and he is very much a grump. She is a sunshiny character. There is an age gap between them, and it's just chef's kiss. There are so many good things about this book that I can mention. It's spicy, it's funny, there are some deep connection scenes within it as well, so it's not all fun and banter, and I really love this book. I think it's my favorite out of the Chestnut Spring series books that I've read. I only haven't read Hopeless, but hearing reviews from other people, I think that Heartless will remain my favorite, and I think that I relate to Willa the most, and that's why I really loved it the most. So yeah, if you haven't read Heartless yet, it's definitely worth the read. Next up, I have another recent read of mine. It's Role Playing by Kathy Yardley. I really love this book because it features two characters who are in their late 40s to 50s. I really want to read more books that feature that demographic group, because we have so many people who either get divorced, separated, or have been single for a long time within that demographic group, or they have lost their loved one and they want to get back into the relationship world, or they fall into love with someone else. And that is such an interesting time of your life to fall in love. I mean, it's a completely different experience than if you were 20 and falling in love for the first time, right? You have so much more experience and a very different kind of mindset and overview of the world and life in general. So for me, it's fascinating to read these kinds of love stories, and that's what we have here. We've got two characters who are very much kind of recluses, and they're gamers, and they're, especially the heroine, she is a grump and she is very much a recluse, very much an antisocial kind of person, but she stumbles into this gaming kind of community where the hero is one of the guys who is gaming with her, and they start to form a relationship online as well as offline when they actually meet each other. And I found that this book was so incredibly well done. I loved it, every single second of it, and it's one of my favorites of this year. The next one is an all-time favorite book of mine. It's From Look Off with Love by Mariana Zapata. I actually love, I think, all the books that I've read by this author, but this one is definitely my favorite. It's a book that is very much a slow burn, which is very normal for Mariana Zapata. She typically writes slow burn romances, and this one features two figure skaters who don't really like each other but are paired up to skate as a couple. She has been working her butt off to kind of get into this major competition, to finally win a major competition. He has been winning left and right, so it's not a priority for him per se, but he definitely wants to win another trophy. And then they get paired up. They don't like each other very much at the start of the book. He actually is her best friend's brother, so we've got that trope as well. But as they get to skate together and they get to know each other on a different level than they've known each other before, there definitely is a connection that you feel like there's an angsty kind of vibe between them, and I absolutely love that, and how Mariana Zapata creates that tension. So this is definitely another favorite of mine. Next up, we've got another all-time favorite book, which is The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. I loved all of the books within this series actually, and the first, second book, and the novella between the two books are focusing on one couple. The third full-length novel focuses on one of the side characters within this book, and I love that one as well, but this one really is my favorite. We've got a relationship between kind of like a socialite who lives in Canada. She hears that her father has fallen into bad health, so she needs to go to Alaska to kind of have a last moment of a relationship with him because she never used to have a relationship with him. And she flies to Alaska. She's totally not prepared for going into the wild. And she meets the hero, who is a pilot on the plane that brings her into the village where her father lives. And basically the romance is between the two of them. He's a grump, she is kind of a sunshiny character, but with a lot of sass. And he definitely has a very different conception of who she is. So he definitely has a lot of misconceptions about her when she arrives, when he sees her for the first time. He thinks that she's like a princess, that she doesn't know what she's getting herself into, which is very much true at the start of the book. But anyway, she definitely has a very big backbone, and she definitely proves him wrong throughout the story. And I love that within the book. Like, I love when we've got someone who comes in and looks like they're shallow and that they are kind of spoiled, but then they prove themselves and everyone else wrong when they show that they really have a much stronger character than they present at the start of the book. So this is what drew me into the story, as well as the connection between the hero and heroine. I absolutely love the two of them, and I love the setting within this book because it's set in Alaska. So yeah, this is an all-time favorite book of mine as well. I'm continuing on with a very different kind of book, a recent read of mine, but I absolutely loved it. It's The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I love both of the books within the Crown of Nyaxia series, the full-length novels. I was really enamored with the romance. I love the world building. I love the competition that is featured within the first book. Something about these books just drew me in, and I just went into the world and I didn't want to leave it, essentially. I was really sad when the second book ended. So this is a romantasy book where we have our heroine who is a human, and she has been adopted by a vampire who is in a very prominent position, and he trains her to compete in this very major competition where a lot of vampires are mostly competing for one wish by the goddess Nyaxia that is a very coveted wish. And she competes within this competition to try and win it, to get a very special wish from the goddess. This is essentially the premise of the book, and I really loved everything about it. It's a 5-star read for me, and it will be a favorite of mine of this year. Next up, we have another forbidden, taboo age gap romance. You notice kind of a pattern here. It's the Off Balance series by Lucia Franco, where we've got a very much taboo relationship between a coach and an athlete with a very big age gap as well. I think he's in his mid-30s while she's 16, 17. So there is a very big age gap, and I know that this series is not for everyone, but I ate it up. I really loved it, and I'm still thinking about it to this day, while I read it like a year ago. So this is a gymnastics coach. He's Russian, and we've got an athlete who very much wants to compete in the Olympics. He's hired to train her to get into the Olympics, and it's a very toxic, very taboo, very spicy relationship between the two of them. It definitely involves a lot of taboo topics. There is cheating. There is also representation for chronic illness. So be mindful, look up the trigger warnings if you have not read this series, but if you've read it, you definitely know that nothing compares to it. I haven't really found any other book that has kind of captured me in the same way as this series when it comes to a sports romance. So yeah, this is a very interesting one and a very special one for me. Next up, we've got a dark romance, and really the only dark romance that I've included in this list, but it's definitely not the only dark romance that I absolutely love, but it's still Beating, by the way, by Jennifer Hartman. This one involves two characters who at the start of the book got kidnapped together and were tortured and were made to have sexual relationships with each other as well as their captor while they were in captivity. So there is a lot of trauma, there is a lot of incredibly difficult topics that are handled within this book, but really the silver lining is what happens after they get freed from that captivity. So it's a very heavy hitting book, but at the same time it's not only heart-wrenching when it comes to what it deals with regarding the captivity, but also with how you get out of that situation and that headspace, and how you get your mental stability back after having lived through that. So it was a very special read, and I really loved it. It's not for everyone, I know that, but I really loved it. I can't go talking about favorite books without mentioning a book by Kennedy Ryan. Any book by Kennedy Ryan can be in this video, but I've chosen the Grip Trilogy. This one is such an epic romance. I'm sorry, I'm not sure how to hold it because it's very heavy. So these are essentially 3 books that follow the same couple. We've got Flow, it's a small novella, Grip, and Still. And if you get to Still, your heart will be kind of twisted, turned, wrenched, and then put back together. So this is a very epic romance. It's an interracial relationship between 2 characters who he is her brother's best friend. So I think that this is the only brother's best friend book that I've really loved in my life, because I really don't like that trope, but this one has been done so well. And it just deals with so many emotional topics, with how to make an interracial relationship work when there are so many prejudices against each other and against what society perceives as okay within an interracial relationship. It deals with a lot of heavy hitting things within a relationship itself. So this one is chef's kiss, like one of my top favorite reads of all time. Okay, so we've got 3 more books to cover. The first one being Forget Me Not by Julie Soto. I've talked about this book many times over since I read it last year. This is a wedding themed romance, a second chance romance, where we've got dual POV. The POV of the heroine is in present time while the hero's POV is in the past. So through his eyes, we see how they got to know each other the first time over, how they fell in love, what happened between them. And then in present time, we see that they need to work together on this high profile wedding because she's a wedding planner and he is a florist. And that is all I'm going to say about this book. I love it with my whole heart. I absolutely am going to read anything else that Julie Soto comes up with. And please read this if you haven't yet. Next up is a recent read for me. It's a read that I didn't expect I was going to love as much as I did. It's The Fake Out by Stephanie Archer. This is a hockey romance, and it's one that just did everything right for me. I really couldn't find anything that I didn't like about this book. Our hero and heroine work together. He is a professional hockey player and she's a physical therapist for their team. And because her ex-boyfriend gets transferred into the team, he's also a hockey player, and she hates his guts and she really wants to make it a point that she doesn't want to get back together with him. She decides to fake date our hero. He has been pining for her. He has wanted to get together with her for such a long time. So this is kind of like his golden opportunity to get with her. So yeah, this book did everything right for me. I absolutely love it, and I would definitely recommend that you read it. We've come to the last book that defines my reading taste, and that is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. I think that everyone loves the ACOTAR series. I think it's one of the first fantasy romance books that I read. And it really captured my attention. It really made me fall in love with a different kind of world than the contemporary world. It really kind of sucked me in and made me want to read more of these kinds of stories. So yeah, I definitely love the whole ACOTAR world, but the second book specifically just made all the difference for me to really fall in love with the whole series. I love every single character within this book, and I really am going to reread the dramatized adaptation for this book, the audiobooks for them. I think it's going to make even more of a difference of how I'm going to experience the whole world again. So I'm not going to talk about the premise of these books because everyone knows the ACOTAR series by now. It's just a very special kind of read that gets everyone to want to read more, and that is something that Sarah J. Maas does very well. So yeah, these were all the books, the 15 books that define my reading taste. If you love any of these books on this list, you can rest assured that our tastes probably align. You can definitely look forward to more recommendation videos that will focus on very similar books to these ones, because I love second chance romances, friends to lovers. I love age gaps, taboo romances, romanticities, and so many other types of books that just make me feel happy. So yeah, I hope you loved this video. If you did, please put a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I hope to see you in the next one. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Happy reading. Take care and bye-bye.